without parties from that left-wing alliance and the centrists making agreements to withdraw tactically in some constituencies so that there would be only one candidate against the far right. But you also saw voters really mobilizing to go and vote for parties that would not have been their second or even maybe sometimes their third choice. So you had, for instance, 70% of left-wing voters in the first round who supported voters of the center or even of the right against a National Rally candidate.
Yeah. The reality, though, is that there is still not a government or one party that can form government. What sort of coalition do you think is going to emerge?
It's very difficult to say at this stage, really. In a normal parliamentary democracy, which is France is much more of a semi-presidential system, then the group that came on top would be called to form a government. Right now, the Left Alliance needs some time to figure out who might be their candidate for prime minister. But in our system, it is the president who appoints the prime minister, and he could choose someone from his own side and tell them to try and form a government, maybe with the left, because even though Macron's party has actually lost nearly half of its seats, they can say they haven't done too badly because they came second. But it's going to be very difficult to have a coalition that ranges from the Macron side, which is itself divided between the left and the right wing, and the whole left alliance, because Macron's party and the radical left party have been at loggerheads for years now. And during the first round campaign, Macron's party really campaigned against the radical left party. So it's very hard to see how these two are going to make any form of coalition.
Yeah, which is almost a bit of an embarrassment now for Emmanuel Macron with the remainder of his presidency trying to keep this group together.
Yes, well, if I may use an Americanism, he's turned himself into a bit of a lame duck president. He still has a few powers, appointing a prime minister, maybe in a year's time, calling for another parliamentary election if France cannot find a government and a stable parliamentary majority. But his powers are very much diminished, mostly in terms of policy internally.
And of course, this is the second time that the far right has been denied. Do you think there will be some anger among those who had supported them that this has happened?
Well, for some, it's very much of a relief that the far right has not made it. You've seen quite demonstrations and happiness, and we could see that from the mobilization against the National Rally in the ballot box. But the radical right will see themselves as, yes, they've been denied their victory because of partisan alliances, etc. And they will keep feeding their discourse of we are the anti-establishment, we are the victims of the establishment, etc. And they'll try and see this as still, maybe that gives them a shot in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
2027, we are bound to have new presidential elections.
And how much of a chance do you give Marine Le Pen for that next presidential election, given that they have not succeeded here?
Again, it's a bit difficult to say. It's in 3 years' time, and we really don't know who's going to be running against her. That's the big unknown here. As we've seen in this election, the two-round electoral system means that in the second round, you need to be able to attract votes way beyond your natural constituency. And that's always been the problem of Marine Le Pen and before that her father, in that they maximized their votes in the first round. Maybe they picked up a bit more in the second round, but not enough to win against whoever was against them. So that's still going to be a challenge for them. These elections have really showed that there can be a really big mobilization against the far right in France.
Yeah. You know, France's place in the EU is incredibly critical at this point. How do you see France putting itself forward in this grouping going forward?
Well, it's better for the EU that France, even if it doesn't really have a stable government have this unstable government than a national rally government who's very Eurosceptic and would have allied with people like Giorgia Meloni, Viktor Orban, etc. So the program of the Left Alliance, if we think of them as the largest party right now, was still relatively pro-European. The Radical Left Party is somewhat Eurosceptic, in particular about austerity policies, etc. But the rest of the left has tempered those tendencies, and their program is about engaging with the EU and also supporting Ukraine, etc. So in that sense, those results ensure much more stability than the victory of the far right would have.
Yeah. And of course, there's something of a deadline looming to get something of a face to put on, because the Olympics start relatively soon.
Yes, indeed. The Olympics are coming soon, and that might be under a new government, who knows, and a different prime minister. But there will still be the same president who will be attending many events, I'm sure. But these sort of things tend to be very removed from the politics of the place. I don't think it's going to be very significant in that sense.
No.
For the Olympics, they're hopefully ready to go, and that does not really depend on whoever is in Parliament.
Yes, as you say, I think Macron will be out there as if nothing has happened. Good to see you, Elodie. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your time.